Before I launch into my story, I think it's necessary to provide you with some much needed background information. I'm a 42-year-old man, and I'm a nudist. Most of us nudists travel to resorts or campgrounds in our area where nudity is allowed because it's on private property. These campgrounds are often near the woods or on the outskirts of their respective towns, as nudism isn't exactly an accepted lifestyle. This encounter took place at a campground last July. I won't mention the place for privacy's sake, but just know that it sits on about 5 acres of rural land, surrounded by hundreds of acres of dense forest and hills. I plan on staying at this campground for 3 nights. It was Monday through Wednesday, so besides those who lived on the grounds, there weren't many people out and about. But whatever, I like the seclusion. After checking in and dropping my bag at the cabin, I went over to the pool to swim. After swimming a few laps and enjoying the sunshine, I noticed something. At the top of one of the hills overlooking the campground stood a man looking right at me. Normally that wouldn't mean much, but he was clothed. I should probably mention now that this campground isn't a standard nudist campground. About 90% of them are clothing optional, meaning you're allowed to wear clothes if you choose, apart from some exceptions like in the pool or shower areas. But this campground was nude only, meaning unless in the case of extreme weather or women going through their cycle, all clothing was prohibited, and I know this place is a strict enforcer of that. So a clothed person was a bit out of the ordinary. At first, I thought the man was possibly a worker, being that they will usually wear something while doing maintenance to protect themselves. But the guy was wearing blue jeans and a black hoodie, with the hood up. It felt off, especially being that it was 85 degrees outside. He stood there frozen like a statue with his hands in his hoodie pocket. The campground had nature trails that were accessible to the public, but being that it was so far from town, and all the locals knew of the place, having unexpected visitors like this was virtually non-existent. Even though I was creeped out by this guy, I knew that I needed to tell people in the office about him in order to shoo him away. So I got up from the pool, dried myself off, and calmly made my way to the office. I told the 2 older women working there about what I saw. Being that they knew me because I came there often, they took my claim seriously. I brought them to the spot where I saw him by the pool, but as I'm sure you can guess, he was already gone. I was gone for maybe 2 minutes, giving him ample time to walk away, and being that it was so early in the morning, I doubt that anyone else saw him. We went up to the top of the hill to see if we could spot him, but no luck. I figured that because he saw me go to the office, and that I just straight up spotted him, that I likely scared him off. He was a creep, yeah, but I rationalized the whole thing by thinking he was probably just some local, one who ventured too far down the trail. So I just went on about my day. As the day went on, people came and went as any normal campground would, and I had almost completely forgotten about the encounter. That is, until nighttime. This campground offered cabins for rent for guests, and lucky me, I had the cabin closest to the trail. It was cozy, small, no more than 2 to 3 parking spaces of room, and had paper-thin wood as the walls, allowing me to hear even the faintest sounds coming from outside. My cabin was pretty far away from anyone else. My nearest neighbor was a local who we'll call Sam, and he lived in his trailer about 150 feet away from my cabin. I was laying in bed, reading a book, when I started hearing faint crunching of twigs and grass from outside the cabin. It sounded like footsteps. At first, I thought it was Sam, because he usually would smoke around this time, but something about the frequency of the footsteps made them suspicious, as if they were trying to be as discreet as possible. I got up from my bed and slowly peered through the blinds. It took me a while to see, but I could just make out a figure slowly walking towards Sam's trailer. That's when my heart started to sink. Sam was a pale white man, and I've never seen him clothed before, so the fact that I couldn't make out his pale skin through the darkness made me come to terms with this wasn't Sam. After my eyes fully adjusted and I saw a black hoodie and blue jeans, this confirmed to me that this was the man from the hill. And whoever this was, he was slinking over to Sam's trailer like this is something that he had done before. That's when a few other things started to click for me. Sam has 2 young daughters in that trailer. they lived with him during the summer. Sam was the only one with kids that actually lived at the campground. My feeling was that this guy somehow knew that, and he had plans to do only God knows what. Who knows how long he'd been watching this campground, or specifically that trailer. I saw him on that hill and he was only 100 feet from the trailer, probably doing one last dry run before whatever his plan was. I knew that I had to do something. I grabbed my phone and called Sam. Calling the police would have been pointless, being how far we were from the closest station. The phone just rang and rang and rang, and Sam wasn't picking up. I called again and again, occasionally peeking out the blinds to see where that man was. He was now walking circles around the trailer. After the fifth or so circuit, I saw the man stand on a box and peer into one of the trailer windows. I decided that making a phone call wasn't going to be enough. I needed to do something drastic. I was going to go out there and handle this myself. I didn't have time to get my clothes from my bag, so I just threw on my hiking boots. And as soon as I opened my cabin door, I hear a high-pitched. I snap my head in the direction of the trailer, and I see all the lights flick on, revealing the man now climbing out of the window from the trailer as he started to run down the trail. Without even thinking, I chased after him. I could hear Sam yell, "What happened?" as one of his daughters tries to explain the situation. Sam then takes off as well, seeing me in pursuit. I could just barely make out the man's blue jeans, but he was much faster than Sam and I. The fucker got away. I stopped to catch my breath with Sam catching up to me, doing the same. I told him what I saw, and we made our way back to the trailer to regroup. By then, a few other residents were out of their trailers with his daughters, being told what happened. A few of the other men went off onto the trail to see if they could find anything, while I called the cops. It took them 30 minutes to get there, and we told them what happened, and soon some officers also went off into the woods. Now, we never found out who the man was, and since this time, Sam and his daughters sold their trailer and moved out. I haven't been back to the campground since, and from what I hear, a lot of the residents have moved on as well. The owners of the campground have since put up a fence to hopefully limit any other possible intrusions. And now there's a security guard that patrols the premises at night. This was a really nice campground at one time, one that I truly enjoyed going to. It's a shame when one pervy creep has to ruin something so nice for everyone. This person is exactly why we can't have nice things. This story took place about 7 years back, when I was 27, and my then relationship was falling apart. My ex and I weren't living together anymore. We'd been separated for a few months, but hadn't officially broken it off yet. That's when his twin brother told me what was going on. I was basically being kept as a backup while he was out having fun with other girls. And that was the moment that I decided I was absolutely done. It was my birthday, and I was already emotional about everything going on. I decided to go to his new place and end it face to face. I took an Uber across the city, far from where I lived, and I knew that his neighborhood wasn't exactly safe for a woman alone at night. But some things just can't be handled via text or even a phone call. We talked, ended things on as good of terms as the situation would allow for, and then it was time for me to head back home. It was November, a rainy night, and now about 2 a.m. I ordered another Uber. When it arrived, I got in and settled into the back seat, staring out the window and just contemplating my life. Well, 5 minutes into the ride, I noticed the driver was watching me in the rearview mirror every time he could take his eyes off the road. At first, I brushed it off. This wasn't the first time a driver had done that, and I was too sad to care. But that's when the ride slowed down, like a lot. I started paying attention without letting him see that I was paying attention. This guy was thin and tall, maybe between 25 and 30 years old, with the look of someone who didn't really take good care of himself. His car was dirty, cluttered, and overall just grimy. All I wanted to do was get home safe, and now fast. When, out of nowhere, he finally spoke. "You're beautiful," he said. I hesitated, then mumbled a quiet, "Thanks." He asked my name. I whispered it, realizing just a little too late that he could see it in the app anyway. Wow, what a hot name. I've always wanted to hook up with a girl with that name. I froze, and the silence in the car at that point was absolutely deafening. He kept glancing at me in the mirror as he drove, talking without pause now and expecting me to respond. "Do you have a boyfriend?" he asked. "Yes." "What a shame," he said. "I wanted you all for myself." I stayed silent now, but he pushed further. "You know, I don't mind the boyfriend. Why don't you change the address for drop-off? I know a place where we can be alone and smoke some weed." I said no, just take me to where I want to be dropped off. At this point, I was paying close attention to the route, ready to jump out of the car if I had to. That's when he started playing a song through the stereo that I'd never heard before. It was a rap song, and the lyrics were graphic, describing sexual acts in rather explicit detail. "Do you hear that?" he said. "That's what having sex with me would be like. I'd lick you just like that. Pull your hair until you can't even scream anymore. You'll love it and come back begging for more." I stayed silent, giving my phone a death grip. I started messaging my ex about what was happening. It gave me an excuse not to look at the driver or respond. "What do you think about that?" he asked. I didn't reply. Then he shouted, "I asked you, what do you think about that?" My heart dropped. I was able to stammer out, I haven't heard this song before." That's when he shifted gears again. "Do you smoke weed?" "No." "Come smoke a joint with me." "No, thank you." "Are you home alone tonight? I could call it a night and go to your place, show you exactly what I'm talking about." I was shaking. At this point, I was in fact living alone, but there was no way that I was letting this guy into my apartment. From that moment, I started recording him and sending these recordings to my ex. "No," I said, "my parents are waiting for me." That sucks. But we can stay in the car? I'll join you in the back seat. We just need to find a dark spot." "No, I need to go home. I'm tired." "Come on," he said. "You'll love everything that I'll do to you. Just trust me. Where did I put that weed?" He started rummaging for it. My ex heard that part of the recording and called me. If I'm being honest, I almost cried with relief when I saw my phone ringing. I answered, making sure the driver could hear me speaking to someone. He kept mumbling, but he was clearly upset by my phone call. My ex was furious but calm, telling me to say out loud where I was and when I'd be home, to act like he was asking and I was answering, and to mention that my mom was there waiting for me. I followed each one of the instructions. When I hung up, the driver asked if that was my boyfriend. I said it was. That's when he went silent for about 5 minutes. From that point on, we had maybe another 5 minutes until we reached my address. As we got closer, he tried again, urging me to go somewhere else with him, to stay in the car, to smoke with him, to tell him about my life, and to break up with my boyfriend. Out of nowhere, he said that he thought he was falling in love. His speech was getting faster, and it was clear that he was filled with more desperation. He would stop at green lights just to turn around and look at me. Finally, after what felt like forever, we reached my building. I think I jumped out of the car while it was still moving, all while he called after me, No, don't go. Where's your apartment? Let me come with you." I ran and flung open the door to the apartment building, keys already in hand for when I hit my door. But I paused. I didn't want him to know which apartment I was going to. I stood there in the dark of the stairwell, peeking out the window to see the street. He was still there. He was now staring at the building, likely waiting to see which lights turned on so he'd know where I lived. I couldn't even go into my apartment because I remembered my hallway light was on, and once I walked in the door, he might be able to see the shadow that I cast on the wall from it. I waited about 5 minutes before he finally drove off. I darted inside, locked everything up, but didn't switch any lights on or off. I peeked out my window again to make sure that he was gone, but he was back, now parked on the other side of the road. My stomach dropped. That's when I got a message from an unknown number telling me to come back down because he was waiting for me. I froze and even cried a little bit. It hit me then that my life could change completely because of a 30-minute ride with an unstable stranger. I couldn't even figure out how he had gotten my number. Maybe it was from the app, using some means that I wasn't aware of. I didn't reply though. He sent a few more messages, and one in particular still lingers with me. He asked me if I wasn't going to come down, to at least call him and have a cigarette with him on the phone. That way he could hear me breathing and smoking. I texted back at this point, telling him to leave me alone. And that's when the calls started. I think I got about 15 of them before I blocked the number. I watched from behind my curtains, and when he realized that he wasn't going to get through, he started smashing his phone against the steering wheel. And after about 30, maybe 45 minutes, he finally left. I stayed at my window for another hour or two just to be sure that he didn't come back. The next day, he messaged and called from another number. I blocked that one. Fast forward a year later, and out of the blue, he tried again from a different number. I only knew that it was him because he talked about finishing up his Uber route and asked if I might want to smoke a joint with him. I blocked that number too and haven't heard from him since. I reported everything to the Uber app and hoped that they took action. I still don't understand why nobody before me had reported him. It didn't feel like this was his first time pulling something like this. He had a script, and as bad as it was, he stuck to it. I wouldn't say that he was exactly smooth with it, but he was persistent at the very least. Easily one of the worst experiences of my life. I had been sent to Korea from my university a few years back. They told me for my major, I had to go somewhere in Asia, and my friends had really talked up Korea for me. I knew nothing about it, but I decided, what the hell? And I embarked on a semester-long trip. I had only one serious boyfriend in my life, who I had broken up with a few months prior. I also don't personally enjoy one-night stands, and wasn't digging the dudes at the clubs in Seoul. But I still wanted to have some sort of romantic experience, I suppose. So my friend recommended that I use this dating app to meet English-speaking Koreans. That way, I could meet someone and experience the actual dating culture. I thought, I'm young, so why not? I was just so eager to have new experiences. Maybe it sounds dumb to try dating in a foreign country, but it worked out for me eventually. Just not the first date. I met this guy on a dating app after being in Seoul about 3 weeks. We'll call him Tim. I still didn't know the culture or city very well and was a bit naive about everything. He eagerly wanted to meet for a date after talking to me, and he seemed nice. I know now I should have asked more questions, and I should have noticed that he wasn't giving me many details about himself. Tim was a bit older than me, but claimed that he was a college student. I assumed he had done his military time, something that all men in Korea have to, and then returned to school. We talked for a bit and decided to meet for a tea date near the school that I went to. He wanted to come to my dorm originally to pick me up, but I live in an all-women's dorm and I didn't want him to know exactly where I live since we were still strangers. So instead, I insisted we meet at the main town center near the subway. He really didn't like this idea, which, looking back, is a red flag. But eventually, I insisted that's the only way that I was going to meet him. The night of the date, I waited an hour for this guy. Tim weirdly claimed he just wanted to make me wait. Odd. I thought he was kidding and messaged him a laughing emoji, assuming that he was just lost. When he finally arrived, he was much smaller than I thought he would be. But a man's height has never been something I care about much. He was also quite thin. Maybe I let my guard down because I didn't see him as a physically threatening person to me, which was a mistake in the end. Right off the bat, this guy was way too touchy and breathed creepily and heavily. I was so off-put with his demeanor. Now, I'm usually pretty tolerant with different personality types, but this guy was just too odd to me. I had been told that Korean men would be polite and not so touchy on the first date. He was also dressed oddly, like in business attire, but for a casual date. I thought maybe that was just a Korean thing. Again, I was dumb and knew jack shit about the culture. After initial hellos and pleasantries, almost the first thing that he said to me was, "You're not as white as I thought you were going to be." I thought this may have just been a translation error, but his English was near perfect. So I asked for clarification, and he said what he meant. "I thought you would be more white. Your skin is darker than I thought. And your eyes aren't as green. Are you pure European?" Now I was officially weirded out. First of all, I'm pretty much as white as you can get. I'm Irish and Scandinavian, so white as hell basically. So the fact that he thought I could have possibly been any whiter was funny. And why did he care in the first place anyway? Why does my skin color matter to this guy? And why was he bringing it up 30 seconds into our interaction? He said about 3 times on this date how he wished I had greener eyes. And every time I would just reply with, "Well, maybe my online photos make me look brighter." I brushed it off as him being nervous and trying to start a conversation. Isn't it funny the dumb excuses you make for people when you're panicked? When we arrived at the tea place, I tried to order a basic raspberry tea, and he stopped me and told me I had to have this special tea. I thought it was weird that he wanted to choose my tea for me, but in my head, once again I brushed it off. He really insisted I drink only this tea type, and for the sake of ease, I just agreed. These small details only become weirder later. After tea, he asked if I would show him around my school. It was dark, but the school is pretty well lit, so I agreed. The whole time we walked around, he would randomly stop and grab me for long hugs. At first, I just let it happen, but after the 3rd or 4th time, I stopped him. He just kept trying though. He kept grabbing me and breathing hard into my neck. I can't really describe how awkward it was. He also wouldn't tell me any personal things about himself. I remember asking so many questions, desperately trying to distract from all the awkward grabbing, trying to get to know him. But he would never tell me a thing. He even said at one point, "I'm just a mysterious man," almost like a movie line. He also said something like, "You look so much like my favorite movie character." This prompted me to ask who, but he said I would have to figure that out on my own. Finally, he said, "I want to go to a dark area." And in my head, I screamed, "Oh, hell no." At this point, I wanted the date to be over with. He somehow knew that there was a wooded area behind the campus, and he suggested that we go there. I said plainly no, that I wanted to stay near the main campus in town, but he just kept pushing. Finally, he grabbed my arm and started dragging me there. He said, "I can't let anyone see." That's when panic really began to set in. I was able to rip my arm away and demanded that we leave and go back to the main road immediately. Looking back, I don't know why I didn't ask for help or get angry. Maybe I was scared, but I just began to book it back towards the main road, and he followed. We ended up in front of a hospital near the town center, and I told him it was time for him to go. I made some excuse, and he was pleading with me to stay. I told him we could meet again the next day, which was obviously a lie, and I would message him once I got home. I just wanted to get away at this point. I was pretending it was all okay, just so he would leave. Suddenly, I think he's leaning in to kiss me, and I immediately think, oh God, no. But it was so much worse. Instead of feeling a peck on my lips or my cheek, I feel a pain in my face. It takes me a full second to realize he was biting my face. It was like a dog. I'd never felt that sensation before. He leaned his head sideways and bit me on my nose and my cheek as hard as he could. I screamed and pushed him away from me. His face looked so freaky in that moment, and I barely had time to react in words. Instead, I ran up the sidewalk until I saw a convenience store on the right. I ran to the back of the store and bent down to start crying. The man who owned the store started to yell at me, but I couldn't explain my situation. I just begged him in English to let me stay. I ended up having to buy a popsicle to stick around. God, I wish I had learned some Korean by then. I guess Tim didn't follow me. I peered outside the store and didn't see him. I texted a friend and waited for them to come get me to take me back to my dorm. On the way, I messaged Tim and basically told him to stay the fuck away from me. I told him he was a creep, that in no situation should he bite a woman on her face, and something along the lines of me calling the police if he were to ever reach out to me again. Then I blocked him. I was a bit scared to walk around my school area after that. I was afraid that he would somehow find me. I'm thankful that I never let him pick me up at my dorms. I called my mother to tell her what had happened when suddenly she said, "Wait, what did he ask you?" She then put some details together and realized that all of the weird things had to do with the 50 Shades of Grey books. At first, I thought she was just being silly, overthinking a bad date. I thought she was joking. But God, she was right. She had recently seen the movie, or read the book, or something, and knew the details. The eye color and the way he dressed, the tea that he made me drink, and the random lines he said. It all matched the book. For his dirty little fantasy, that is. My mom thinks that he picked me because I look like the girl in the movie to him. It explains why he was so fixated on my appearance, and his whole thing with the biting and trying to dominate me. Even if it wasn't his intention, I later learned that there are a few creeps who seek out foreign girls to dominate and have sex with, as a sort of prize. They call it riding the white horse, or something along those lines. On a much happier note, this bad experience didn't stop me. I eventually met someone else in Korea, and we ended up falling in love. We even did the whole long distance thing. Now, I'm living in Korea, studying and working, hoping to marry soon. So I guess silver lining is, I didn't let bad, creepy guys stop me from living my life. And that's something that I'm proud of.